Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well. Warhammer 40k has been here for just over a month now, so I wanted to do a rambling video to talk about it and get the conversation started. Join in with the conversation in the comment section below. This is an opinion piece and there'll be opinions in the comment section below. This is going to be very rambling, but remember, opinions are like Gretchen, they get everywhere and steal stuff. So let's be civil about this one. And let's start rambling from the very top. Do I like Warhammer 40k 10th edition? The answer to that question is yes. I'm actually really enjoying playing Warhammer right now. It's fun finding out what the new combinations are, what works best, what doesn't work best, where the synergies are. And I really like the fact that characters can attach to units now. It feels like a war gear upgrade, but it also feels like they're doing something as opposed to just standing at the back and giving out a bunch of rerolls. The Leviathan mission deck, which I've been mainly playing, is also a very good mission deck. I like the fact that the actions in the mission deck are a lot more simplified. There's only 20 cards in there, and there seems to be a feel and a flow to getting secondaries, which is distinctly different to getting primaries. The Leviathan mission deck is a 2 thumbs up from me, and the edition itself is simplified but not simple. With the cards that we have, 10th edition is a lot more accessible. It's easier to play, it feels easier to play, and it's quicker to play. I've found out that 2,000 point games of Warhammer 40k take about an hour shorter just to play than they did before in the previous edition, and there's been a couple of occasions in the evening, not filming, that we've managed to smash in 2 games in one evening, and we couldn't do that back in 9th edition. So overall, it's a smoother, simplified game system, and it's fun. I'm finding it fun. But of course, there are quite a few problems with this edition, and certain areas of the internet are going absolutely wild about it. So let's talk about it. I wanted to talk about a couple of the bigger-ish problems and what I'd like to see in 11th edition if 11th edition becomes an evolution of 10th edition, a bit like 8th to 9th, rather than a reset, which was 9th to 10th, which feels a bit more like a reset. So let's start at the top. Balance. The balance in this edition is a bit skew-if. We can see certain factions such as Eldar, Custodes and Knights doing really well at events, and Votann and Death Guard and Tau not doing so well at events. I think that's where the thing, people will tell me in the comment section below whether that's the split. Now, for the 99.9999% of us that aren't doing events, this isn't a major problem, except it is sort of kind of, because when little Timmy goes along to his local gaming store, or when you hook up with your friends and have a game and someone's got Leagues of Votann and it's an average Leagues of Votann list, and someone's got an Eldar list and it's an average Eldar list, and the Eldar player will probably win 4 times out of 5 or 2. It's the balance there isn't quite right at the start of the edition, but fortunately Games Workshop have a system that they've had since the very beginning, since 1986, that they can quickly address, which they can quickly use to help balance the system, and that's called points. So I'm sure some points changes will be coming very quickly, and the stuff at the top end will either get more expensive. I can't see how they can make Knights more expensive, but what they can do is reduce the points cost at the bottom end. The point system is here to help balance stuff. There's a reason why a Knight costs 500 points and a unit of cultists costs 50 points. It's because you need 1,000 cultists to take on a Knight, and even then you're kind of struggling as well. So we'll see points changes coming forward in this edition, which should help rebalance some of the stuff and things. The other thing that I think is a bit of a miss in this edition at the start is more ways to play. Made a video about this before. Basically, in the main rule book, you've got the combat patrol missions, and there is just one main way to play a casual game in the main rule book, and there should have been 6 in my humble opinion. We need more ways to play in this edition as well, but they'll fix that as well. Just like the point system is a very quick fix that they'll do eventually, the more ways to play is something that's going to come through this edition. Personally, I really like the Leviathan mission deck, and I'm looking forward to an open war mission deck for us casual players, or a Maelstrom of War mission deck, and I think that's a very quick open goal that they can hit as well. I'm even looking forward to seeing what comes after the Leviathan mission deck as well. It would be good, say 2 years into the edition, or a period of time into the edition that there's 2 or 3 match play mission decks. There's the Leviathan mission deck, there's the Kraken mission deck, there's the Space Smurf mission deck, there's a couple of match play mission decks, and you could play this one at this particular event or this one at this. There's a couple of different ways to play there for the match play stuff. And if they release, or when they release, a Maelstrom deck or an open war deck, then there's a number of different ways to play for the casual players as well. Just a bit of a miss that that wasn't in the main rule book as well. So balance, points, ways to play, mission decks, I'm sure they're coming. One thing that I can't see them changing in this edition, which seems to be, which is a problem in this edition, which probably will need to wait until 11th edition, is the OC problem, the objective control problem, or the battle line problem. I read an article in Bell Los Souls just today, actually, and they were talking about the battle line problem, as in not a lot of people are bringing a lot of battle line troops to score things here, there, and everywhere, despite them having allowing up to 6 units of troops. You never see 6 units of troops running around all over the place. And having played myself 20 plus games of Warhammer 40k in the last month, yes, I'm that guy. Filmed half of them, haven't filmed half. It's just, I'm enjoying 40k right now. Said that at the beginning. But having played 20 plus games of Warhammer 40k recently, it's not so much for me a battle line problem as it is an objective control problem, as in it's not as important a thing as I thought it would be at the beginning. Not being able to score an objective, or making sure you have battle line troops on objectives to steal. It's not as big an issue. People ask me, like, do I really need the thing? And then, not really, no, because almost everything has an objective control value, and some of them have high objective control. Here's the thing. What it really comes down to is, in this edition, there's a lot of really big units smashing against each other, and not a lot of smaller units zipping around to steal this or holding onto a thing. Or there's a layer of tacticalness that is missing or not exploited as much as it could be. And there's a really quick fix for this, which is most things should have an OC of 1. I can't see how a Land Raider on a hilltop is holding that objective when he's surrounded by platoons of infantry, not really controlling that thing. The infantry down on that objective, they're having tea, they're calling in ordnance strikes, they're passaging messages backwards and forwards, they're taking selfies next to the enemy tank, all that sort of stuff. The tank isn't really holding that objective, and the tanks with OCs of 3, 4, 5s is a bit of a problem. Dreadnoughts with higher... The easiest way to fix it is most things have an OC of 1, and then fast units, bikers, jumpy things, jetpack units, things like that could have an OC of 2, and then all your battle line units having an OC of 3 would make the game a bit more flexible and a bit more tactical, and encourage more of those strategic plays rather than just, I'm just charging across the table to smash everything you have, or I'm just staying at the back to blow away everything you have and then move on to the objectives before. There was a problem with scoring objectives in the Horus Heresy, for example, and Games Workshop fixed that in their latest edition of Horus Heresy. They brought in the line concept, and now having only a certain number of units in Horus Heresy that can actually score. They have many units that can deny objectives, but there's a certain number of units that can only score, and they typically are your line infantry, and sometimes you can put that line rule or OC rule on other stuff by monkeying around with your Force Orcs a lot. They saw the problem in Heresy. They saw that to make that game system a better game, that they needed to change that system and make sure infantry units were very, 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 very important. And in Warhammer 40k 10th edition, there's a bit of an explosion when it comes to objective control. And that same methodology, the same thinking that they applied to Horus Heresy, they can put into Warhammer 40k 11th edition by making sure that line troops have a much higher OC than anything else around. Battle line troops have a much higher OC of, say, 3 than anything else around. Making sure fast, speedy units stealing stuff, flanking on a flanks have an OC of 2, for example. And then almost everything else dreadnoughts, tanks, elite units, things like that. These units are not designed to hold objectives. These units in modern warfare, they smash, they move on through. Big stuff like a tank shouldn't be holding objective. Mortarians shouldn't be holding objective. What they should be doing is just killing stuff and doing tank things and doing Mortarian things. It's your troops that bed in. It's your fast elite stuff, your fast skimmy stuff, that steel stuff. And that's my thoughts on the OC battle line problem. That'll help balance out some of the meta and help people bring back those kind of units a bit more, or at least give them a real purpose in the game, in the same way that they introduced that real purpose into Horus Heresy. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about, which I think is a little bit of a problem and I can't see them addressing in this edition, which I'd really like to see in 11th edition, like a change to the OC, is the special rules. Does everyone need a special rule? Every single datasheet seems to have special rules. Even Gretchen have got, like on a 4-up, they steal you a thing. Even an attack bike has a, I can shoot back at you. What happened to just a tank being a tank or a flight? They talk about it being simplified, not simple. I would cut down the number of special rules in the datasheets by about 25%, maybe all the way up to 50%. So that a quarter to a half of the units in your codex don't have any special rules at all. Well, doesn't that make them not special? No. For example, if a dreadnought, like there's a different rule for a Redemptor dreadnought to a Brutalis dreadnought to a Ballistus dreadnought. Say they didn't have any special rules. They still kind of have special rules because you've still got blast, lethal hits, devastating hits. You've still got those other rules that are tied in to the actual weapon profiles themselves. They still do things depending on what war gear they have on them, and you don't need to make them special by putting so many special rules across all the units in the entire game. Having played as many games as I have, I'm not sure making everything have all the special rules all the time makes the game any better. Maybe the game would feel a bit better if just the specialist units and elite units and the HQs and stuff like that had all the special rules, because they're the specialist units and the elites and the HQs. Meanwhile, your faster units are stealing objectives, your battle line units are camping on objectives, and it helps if you marry it in with the OC change idea that I had. Opinions, Gretchen, then I think it would make a better game overall. And I did say that was the last thing I wanted to talk about, but I think they also have a devastating wounds problem, so let's just slightly touch on that. The devastating wounds mechanic is a way just to apply mortal wounds to a unit. You don't get any saves whatsoever. The only way to get around it is by feeling of the pains. So the devastating wounds mechanic has some... There are armies out there that can put out 2d6 here and 2d6 there and do 50 mortal wounds in a turn, and that seems a little bit broken to me, particularly when it ties into the critical hit scoring wounds and they become devastating wounds or critical. When you tie it into the other mechanics in the game, the devastating wounds mechanic can get a little bit busted, so maybe that one needs to be wrapped up, burnt, and left in the garden somewhere. Perhaps they should just ditch that one entirely. If they want to make weapons be really powerful and have devastating wounds, there's a way to change it, of course. Some really big guns like your laser destroyers or your rail cannons or whatever it might be, you know, they've got D6 plus 1 on a las cannon, or D6 plus 2 on this, or a melters D6 plus 2, D6 plus 4. They could just tie it into the weapon profile. So this gun does D6 plus 1 mortal wound. This gun at half range does D6 plus 2 mortal wounds, and just get rid of devastating wounds completely, and that way they'll be able to manage that mechanic that they've put in there, which is skip straight to the mortal wound phase, a lot more effectively. Because with the other combos that I talked about, with critical hits causing this or lethal wounds doing that, the devastating wounds mechanics can get very, very silly very quickly. So that one needs a good look at, maybe Commissar Execution style, that one. Overall, just as I said at the very top, I'm really enjoying playing Warhammer 40k. 10th edition right now, it's simplified, not simple. It's a quicker game to play, and it's certainly much more accessible with the cards, and they haven't monkeyed around with many of the rules yet with all the balance data slate changes that are going to come down the line. Of course, the future of the game is going to look a lot different once the codexes come out and once they start monkeying around with those rules. There is a balance problem, but that can be fixed with points. There is a ways to play for casual gamer problem, but that can be fixed with an open war deck or a maelstrom of war deck. The OC problem that they have in the fact that it isn't as critical as a mechanic as we all thought it might be at the beginning of the edition will not change in this edition, unfortunately, unless they take a look at that from the ground up and make troops and make line infantry and make the kind of units that you think would steal objectives or hold on to objectives really pokey at doing that. And the only way to make them really pokey at doing that is take it away from dreadnoughts and weapon beasts and tanks and things like that. And then you'll get them in the game a bit more, and then that'll unlock a layer of tactical nuance to the game. And then all the special rules. There's a lot of special rules, and half of them, well, not half, but many of them don't do anything. Well, they do the do-do, or can do the do-do, but you often can't do the do-do with them because you never manage to pull it off anyway. It doesn't seem to have much of an effect. Anyway, what do you think? What are your thoughts and opinions? Please write in the comment section below. Let's have a conversation about this. Please be nice and kind and gentle with each other, because as I said, we don't want those Gretchens running wild all over the place and biting everyone's ankles off. Do hope you enjoyed this video. Look forward to reading what you put down below, and happy wargaming.